Hi, friends all over the world. I'm so thrilled to be able to connect with you live and to get to interact. I know you've been looking at my face for a while, and now I get to look at your face if you want to have if you want to do a video question. And we've been fielding some questions that have been coming in, and I've been taking a look in the tribe and seeing some themes that are coming up. So I'll quickly just start with a recap and a summary of where we are in the journey. And then I really want this to be time for us to interact. I want you to feel free to reach out. Even if the question feels silly, I guarantee that if you are having it, probably someone else is as well. So this is really the time to ask your questions and to get all your burning queries answered. So we're about halfway through the journey, a little bit less than halfway through our quest. And so far, this part one of the journey has been all about getting good at meditation. And then part two of the journey is going to be about getting good at life. And they're quite different, part one from part two. Part one is all about giving you these tools, tacking these tools on top of themselves so that you can start to have a morning practice that you can do on your own. And then part two of the M word is all about giving you guided visualizations for more specific real life situations. So far, you guys have learned the balancing breath, which we're going to talk about. We've had a lot of questions coming up about what if I'm blocked on one nostril? What if I can't do it? Why this hand? So I'm going to talk you through the nitty gritty of that. So we do the love bomb, and then we do come to your senses, which is something that you can utilize even outside of the meditation. This is something you could do with your waking state. Something you could do waiting in line at the post office before you're about to have some sexy time. Really, anytime you want to come into your body and into the right now. And then we're going to talk about the effortless silence, which is probably quite different for most of you. It's quite different from most other styles of meditation. And as you're probably already learning, it's not that silent. There's always going to be stuff going on in your life. There's always going to be stuff going on in your brain. But when I say silence, I mean just not guided. And that's when, a lifetime of stress and trauma and sadness and anger can start to bubble up to the surface. So if you're having some of that, if you're having some emotions coming up and out, know that that's very, very normal. It's very common for this part of the story. And then after that effortless silence, we move into the love bomb. And that's really a lot of the questions that I'm getting around the love bomb are, Emily, I don't feel that sensation. It's hard for me to hold on to that sensation. So it's hard for me to, blast it out to the world. But please know that it doesn't matter exactly how you're feeling viscerally. What matters is that you're engaging your imagination and that you have the intention of sending that love out, to the room, to the city, to the state, to the country, to the planet, and then out to the whole universe. So it's really about your intention, and it's about waking up your imagination. And all of these elements combined together in this specific sequence, this is the M word technique. And I've been moving you through very deliberately, stacking each technique on top of the other. And I know you're probably a little sick of me, guiding you through, okay, Emily, we get it. But I want you to really get this stuff in your bones so that you can start to do it on your own. And that's some of the questions that I was starting to get. So I'm going to go ahead and open it up for some of the questions that people were submitting. And the first one is from Jill. And she said, I've been trying to meditate before and after work. I feel I cannot relax as well in the morning. What type of meditation should we be doing after 2 p.m.? So really good questions, Jill. And as far as what type of meditation you should be doing in the morning, I highly recommend you do the M word technique first thing in the morning, before coffee, before breakfast, before computer. And it doesn't matter if you feel relaxed. It doesn't matter really if you're enjoying the meditation itself. Sometimes meditation is going to be enjoyable. Sometimes it's delicious. Sometimes it's like a eucalyptus steam bath. And other times it's just like a boring shower. But either way, you got to do it every day. Just like you're not going to be like, 2 weeks ago, I took a really lovely shower. In a couple weeks, I'm going to get back around to that showering thing. It's like, no, you get dirty every day, so you got to shower every day. And similarly with meditation, you're going to be picking up stress every day, so we got to meditate every day. And some of the times it's going to feel really blissful and relaxing and enjoyable. And oftentimes it's going to be not relaxing and your brain is going to be going a million miles a minute. And maybe you're having some sadness or some anger coming up during it. And here's the secret. I'm not that interested in how much you're enjoying the meditation itself. I'm interested in how well you're performing at life. And that's what we're going to cover in part two. But even already, I want you to start to gauge your progress and your success based not on what's happening in the chair, but rather what's happening with your eyes open when you're delivering your fulfillment and bliss throughout your life, throughout your job and with your family and with your kids and just everyday life. Because as you guys know by now, I believe that we meditate to get good at life, not to get good at meditation. And then you asked what kind of meditation should we be doing after 2 p.m. So spoiler alert, that is everything that we're going to learn in part 2. So part 2 is going to be specific guided visualizations that you can use for real life situations. So I would say hold your horses on that one. Just do the M word technique in the morning. And then once you move into part 2, you're going to get those questions. Okay, cool. So next question is from Sylvia. And she said, when doing the practice on my own, is there a specific time limit for each one of the techniques? Great question. Okay, so we haven't addressed this very much in the quest so far. So we're going to spend quite a bit of time tonight talking about timing and alarms and how long or short things can be. But I would say approximately 15 to 20 minutes. So the M word technique in total wants to take you approximately 15 to 20 minutes, depending on how much time you have that morning. And the time breakdown, and I very much recommend that you have a timepiece near you. So there's a really cool app. You could just literally use your watch and time things with your watch, but there's also a cool free app called The Clocks. Let me see if I can find it here. It's just called The Clocks. You can get it on the App Store. And the icon, can you see this? Oh, I don't know if you can see that. It just looks like a clock. And then it turns your phone into just a big digital clock. And then you don't have to worry about touching anything or swiping anything or putting in any codes. It doesn't go dark on you. It just basically, if you don't have a clock in your house, oops, which a lot of us don't anymore, this is a nice alternative. So I would say know what time it is when you're starting. Let's say you're starting at 6:42 a.m. and let's say you're going to do this for 20 minutes. So you're going to go until 7:02 a.m. And it's almost like you want to set your little internal alarm clock for 7:02. And then I recommend starting with the balancing breath. And I would do balancing breath for about 2 to 3 minutes, whatever feels charming to you. And if you're curious about how much time has passed, just open your eyes and check your watch or check the clock. But balancing breath, about 2 to 3 minutes. And then we move into the come to your senses. And that can take around 4 to 5 minutes. And notice that I'm giving you a window and a range. I don't want you to feel super rigid about this or super attached to the timing. I'm just giving you a loose framework and then you can start to play with this. But 4 to 5 minutes with the come to your senses, just moving through the subtle and the gross sensations and stacking them on top of each other. And then I would recommend about 5 minutes of that effortless silence. And that is going to be the trickiest one to time because you're going to notice that your relationship with time changes quite a bit. As we use that word one as an anchor to drop us down, your state of consciousness shifts, which impacts your relationship with time and your perception of time. And so you might find that 2 minutes feels like 100 minutes, that 5 minutes feels like 1. And so what I want you to do is just check the time anytime you're curious and start to train yourself to feel what that 5 minutes is. And know that you actually do have a very strong and powerful internal time barometer. It's just none of us are using it because we're using our phones to think for us. And then after about 5 minutes of the effortless silence, you just check. And if 5 minutes has passed, great. Then you close your eyes, you let go of the word inside, and then you move into the love bomb. And the love bomb you could do for, 3 to 4 minutes. I'm not great at math, but I think that works out. So we've got like 2 to 3 minutes. If you do 2 to 3 on the breath, 5 minutes on the come to your senses, 5 minutes on the effortless silence. And then we do about, 4 or 5 minutes with the love bomb, then that should be perfect. And all the while, when you're curious about the time, you just check. And if one section wants to last a little bit longer, you want to luxuriate in one of the sessions, then just do that. And if you need to shorten it because you're running out the door, then just shorten it. But that's a good ratio to start with. I'm sure I'm going to get 100 more questions on that. Okay, so Sylvia had another question. Can I also do the meditation before I go to bed? And I would not recommend doing the M word before bed because specifically that effortless silence part of it is going to be very, very restful for your body and very rejuvenating. And so that is going to make you afterwards, you could probably are already noticing this, that you start to feel quite energized, quite refreshed, like you've, taken a power nap for your brain. And so I wouldn't recommend doing that right before bed because then you're going to have all this energy and all these great ideas and no one to tell them to but your cat. So instead, it's better to do that first thing in the morning instead of right before bed. Okay, cool. So Tracy asked, how long is it recommended that we stay in effortless silence? Is longer time in silence better? Okay, so Tracy, to start, I would recommend that you start with about 5 minutes in that effortless silence. But one way that you guys can start to advance and start to move the technique forward, if you start doing this for a month and you're really loving it and you want to take things to the next level, then you could actually increase the effortless silence. That's the first way I would recommend adapting the practice. So you could take the 5 minutes and then the next day increase it to 6. And then the next day increase it to 7. And I would say you could take that all the way up to about 10 or 12 minutes of effortless silence. But for right now, 5 minutes is totally fine. Okay, so I think it's Mocha. Says, can we substitute the word one with another of our own for the purpose of the mantra? So I would not recommend this. I chose one very specifically. It's not arbitrary. It's not random. It's actually the best word for this particular sequence and for this particular style of meditation. It's the perfect level of depth and powerfulness. Power, I guess, is a better way to say that. Now, the exception to that would be if you have already taken the 4-day Ziva meditation course with me and gotten your own personalized mantra, or if you've taken a course somewhere where you've already gotten a personalized mantra, then you could use that mantra instead of the word one. But otherwise, I would recommend sticking with the word one. And there's lots of reasons behind it, but there's a lot of neuroscience research that was done at Harvard, like in the neuroscience department at Harvard back in the 70s. And that is what I base the M-word technique on. Okay, cool. So Astrid is saying, how important is it to meditate in the morning versus other times of the day? And how long should the meditation be? So in the morning is just the best way. It's like the way to make sure that you get it done. And as you guys know, part 1 of this course is all about priming your brain for the day. So I recommend that you wake up, freshen up, meditate. Wake up, freshen up, meditate. If you want to take a shower, great. If you want to wash your face, great. But almost as soon as your rising time, that's when your first meditation wants to happen. Here's my goal in life. I want to make it as rude for you to leave your house without meditating as it would be for you to leave your house without brushing your teeth. It's like, you need to handle that. You need to clean that stress up. So just like you don't leave your house without brushing your teeth, I don't want you leaving your house without meditating. You don't want to interact with humans until you've freshened up your brain machine. Okay, a couple more questions, and then we can open it up to some video and live questions. So Linda is asking, when doing the M-word technique on my own, how do I manage time for each part as well as the overall length? So Linda, we just covered that. So just to reiterate for everybody, I'd recommend about 15 to 20 minutes total, and no more than 3 minutes with the balancing breath, and about 5 minutes, and then 3 or 4. So you can just play with those techniques, but somewhere around that ratio should be good. So Jim is saying, I'm having trouble feeling the 5 senses simultaneously. So Jim, you're not alone. I sometimes have a hard time with it as well. Instead of worrying about feeling all 5, which is quite a bit to hold in your awareness simultaneously, just really play. Like, see, well, today I can really hear and feel, but I can't really taste. Or today I can really see and smell, but I can't really hear anything. And so you could actually start with just 2, so once move through all 5 of the senses individually, but then when you start stacking them on top, maybe for a couple of weeks, you simply hear what you're hearing and feel what you're feeling, and just do 2 at a time. And once that starts to feel pretty easy, then you can add in the sight and just really start to stack them on top of each other. And if it needs to be 2 and then 3 and then 4 and then 5, then great. But know that I've been doing this for a really long time, and still it's tough for me to really viscerally hold all 5 of my senses. What I'm really trying to get you to do is just to give yourself permission to be deliciously human and so present in this moment right here, right now. But don't worry too much about if you're actually feeling all 5 senses. So Patricia says, when we're in the phase of effortless silence and we notice pain, anxiety, or anything intense that's emerging, how are we supposed to react? So Patricia, this is an awesome question, and I'm so glad that you asked it, and I know that you're not alone. Now, I would argue that the whole point of this effortless silence, it's quite different than the other styles of meditation that we've learned so far. It's quite different from mindfulness. And this is more akin to what I teach at Ziva. This is more similar to the techniques that we use at Ziva. And it's all about going in and getting rid of the lifetime of stresses we've all been accumulating in our body. And sometimes that will come up and out in the form of some tears, some sadness, some anger, some anxiety, sometimes just really racy thoughts, sometimes fatigue. And so if it's happening in the sitting itself, let's say you're having a great day, you got a raise at work, you're dating a new amazing person, you just got a new apartment, and you sit down to meditate and you close your eyes and suddenly there's water coming out of your eyes. You're like, that's weird. Why am I crying? I'm having a great day. Well, you're not necessarily crying because of whatever's happening in your life right now. Sometimes you could be letting go of a lifetime of accumulated stress, but the mind is going to assign itself to whatever's going on in your life right now. So if it gets really intense, like extreme nausea or extreme headaches or extreme emotional pain, what I'd love for you to do is keep your eyes closed, but let go of the word inside. Just cut the cord to the anchor of the word, and instead just gently allow yourself to scan the body and bring your awareness to that physical sensation. Just bring your awareness to that sensation and let it talk to you. Let it say whatever it needs to say. Similar to what we do in the come to your senses when you're feeling the tangible, visceral feeling in the body. Just scan the body and ask, what's the most prevalent physical sensation happening for me? And then if your heart is racing, then just let it race. Put all your attention on that and let it say whatever it needs to say. Usually it'll get more intense and then it will dissipate. And then scan your body again. What's the next most prevalent sensation? Might be nausea. And then just feel it. Gently allow your awareness to rest on that sensation. Let it say whatever it needs to say. Let it communicate whatever it needs to communicate. It will get more intense and then it will dissipate. And then we do that 3 or 4 times. Then we're usually back in our body. And then you can pick back up the word and go back into the M word technique. So that's a really good question. Know that you're not alone. So that's what you do if the intensity comes up in the meditation itself. Now, if intense feelings and old, yucky, unstressy rage and anxiety and sadness starts coming up with your eyes open, then what I recommend are a lot of naps, a lot of baths, and a lot of walks. So take very good care of your body as your soul is detoxing. As we're detoxing the nervous system, just be really gentle to the body. And I mean actually take a bath. If you don't have a bathtub, maybe go to your gym or to a spa and just submerge yourself in water. Get a massage, take a walk, write angry journal entries. But our theme song wants to be better out than in, especially in these first few weeks. So if you're having some intense emotions, please don't think there's anything wrong with you. Just know that it's like a bit of a floodgate coming up and out, and it's going to dissipate pretty soon. And rest. Good. Okay, so Cassandra's asking, how do I get my teenage kids to practice meditation? Are there any incentives that I can use? Okay, so great question, Cassandra, and I am with you. I want to get all of the world's teenagers meditating. I think it's going to make better adults. And I wish I had these practices when I was a teenager. It would have made my 20s so much easier. So big picture, the best thing you can do to get the people in your life to want to meditate is clean your own house. You just keep meditating every day. Come hell or high water, you just keep getting to the chair. And you're going to be up-leveling and shining brighter and getting happier and starting to perform better. And you're going to be more radiant. You're going to be more fun, more funny, more charming. And then the people around you are going to wonder, well, what is that? What does she have? I want some of what she's having. Even your teenagers, right? But as you know, with teenagers, you can't force them to do anything. You can't make them meditate. Trust me, I have tried, okay? If I could make people meditate, I would. I'm not controlling. But I've learned the hard way that the best thing you can do is just clean your own house and lead by example. And just when people come to you with questions, share your own experience. Now, if you want to kind of, stoke the fire and speed this process along, one of the things you can do is talk about the neuroscience. I think that people really respond to neuroscience because a lot of people think that meditation is really hippy dippy and airy fairy and a waste of time. And as you guys know, like our mission at Ziva is to rebrand meditation as a productivity tool. And we're all about giving high performers tools to perform at the top of their personal and professional game. So I think if you start to reframe it, it's not you're meditating for the sake of meditation, but it's going to make you better at school. It's going to make the girls want to sleep with you more, or it's going to make you better at sports, or it's going to give you better test scores. Like whatever it is that people are struggling with, if you start to let them know, if you start to gently share with them how stress makes us stupid and how meditation starts to make us smarter and perform better, that's how I've had the most success in inspiring people to want to learn. But here's the thing you got to know is that we can't be evangelical about this thing. You know, we can't go door to door and be like, hey, have you heard the good word about Ziva meditation? Because then it's, it just turns people off and they have to really come to it at their own time. So I'm not saying be secret about it. Like if you want to share it, please do. The people who are meant to see it will. So I hope that is helpful. And good. So Simone is asking, to fit a meditation and yoga practice in before work, I need to get up at 4 a.m. Will the meditation practice prevent me from dropping out of this routine after a while because the early start may become too much? I want to set myself up for success, not failure. Is there a way to integrate the practice into a demanding work schedule without sacrificing sleep? So really good question, Simone, and I'm sure that you are not alone. But so a couple of things that you can do here. One is do an experiment. Okay, so right now you're about 16 days in, and I want you to start to see how you feel when you get up and you do the M word and yoga before work. Do you have more energy? Are you more clear? Are you more creative? Are you more kind? And if that is the case, if your work is getting done, if you're doing less, if you're doing more in less time, then it would suggest that you actually would be better off getting up and sacrificing a bit of sleep in order to meditate. But if you find that sacrificing that sleep is not helping you and not helping your performance, then absolutely you can integrate this into your workday. I recommend, depending on where you work, sometimes I'll have people sneak like a little pillow into their office and put it under their desk and sneak away to a stairwell. Or sometimes they'll have lactation rooms that aren't being used all 24 hours a day, so you can book it out for a little bit of time. Sometimes you can simply pop your headphones in your ears with no music, and that's just the international sign for I don't want to talk to you right now, and you just sit at your desk and you just do it there. Now you might have to abbreviate it a little bit at work, maybe it's 10 or 15 minutes, but I do believe that some meditation is always better than no meditation. And what you're going to find is that it gives you this big hit of energy and productivity and creativity on the other side of it. But I teach a lot of fitness trainers. I teach a lot of actors and actresses that are, they also have to get up at 4 in the morning because they have to be on set at 6. And even then, I still recommend that they do it first thing in the morning before coffee, before breakfast, before computer, just because you don't really want to interact with human beings until you've cleaned your brain machine. Good. So that is all of our pre-selected questions. I'm happy to open it up now to some video Q&A or to some questions that are coming in. Okay, so this is from Maria. Emily, I love your program. Thank you very much. My question is, why do I need to sit up when I've done meditation lying down in the past and have been told that I could? So thank you for your sweet comment, and thank you for going on this journey with me. So you've probably been told a lot of things about meditation before that I would invite you to just take and throw it right out the window. Okay, and just really let the M-word technique be the M-word technique instead of trying to make it like or not like anything that you've heard about in the past. In my experience, if you do particularly this style of meditation and particularly the effortless silence, if you do this thing laying down, you're just going to fall right to sleep, and you already know how to take a nap. You don't need to give me and Mind Valley a bunch of money to learn how to nap. You already know how to do that. So in this practice, it's really important, back supported, head free, and that's going to keep you sort of dancing on the cusp in between waking state and sleeping, and that is where the magic happens. That state of consciousness that you're accessing in that in-between state, that's where the right and left hemispheres of the brain start to function in unison, and that is where you start to increase neuroplasticity and strengthen the corpus callosum. And if you just fall over into sleep, then that's just a nap, and you already know that. Cool. Thanks for asking. Good. Okay, and you guys can just keep the questions coming because I'll go pretty fast. If you want to pop them up here, feel free. So this is from Ramil. Can we use any finger in closing the left and right nostrils? Oh yeah, so let's talk about the balancing breath for a minute. It's pretty specific. I want you to use your right hand, I want you to use your thumb and your ring finger, I mean, if you have some sort of a problem with it, then yes, you can adapt. These are on purpose. Just like in different, in some yoga poses, they'll use mudras, and the finger positions are important and they do different things. They send different signals to your brain and body. Same thing with this. The right hand matters, the thumb matters, the ring finger matters. I'm not just arbitrarily making this stuff up. It's all been pretty carefully researched and curated. Now, if you need to adapt for some reason, don't panic, don't sweat it. Just do what you need to do. But I would recommend thumb and ring finger and your right hand. Now, if you're stopped up one day and you can't breathe on both nostrils, don't panic. Just do it on one side. It's a-okay. That's still going to slow everything down, and it's going to act like a bow on that bow and arrow to surrender into the practice. Good. So this is, I don't know how to say your name, but Yasmilda, I think. I've been told before that I should not meditate close to the time of going to bed. Do you share that opinion? Yes, I do. And we just covered that. We don't want to meditate before bed. Good question. It's going to make you too energized and give you too many good ideas where you'd rather do that earlier in the day. So Julie's asking, when we start to meditate on our own, can we listen to meditation music or do we meditate in silence? Great question, Julie, and I get this all the time. But here's the good news. Now that you have these techniques in this sequence, you're going to find that they're much more powerful than listening to music. Most people listen to music when they meditate when they don't have actual techniques and when they don't have training, because music is a right brain phenomenon and it's helping you to access your right brain. Whereas now that you have these techniques and now that you know how to use the word one as an anchor, that's going to be much more powerful than listening to music or external stimulation. Now, if you want to listen to binaural beats or something other times of the day, please feel free. There's different ones that will help you focus at work or help you fall asleep. So I'm not saying don't listen to the music, but just don't do it while you're doing these practices. It'd be better to just I want to make you self-sufficient, okay? I don't want you to have access to the perfect room and the perfect lighting and the perfect headphones and the perfect binaural beats and your phone has to be charged in order for you to meditate. I want this to be the ultimate portable device. You can do it anywhere, anytime. So Mary is asking, is there a way to know when I have been in a part of the meditation long enough to move on to the next? A sensation, amount of time, or something else? Yeah, so good question, Mary. And the main thing that for now is just know the ultimate time you want to stay in there, what's your maximum time you want to be in the whole M-word technique, and then adapt it from there. And in the meantime, just check your watch. I know that seems sort of counter and this stresses some people out, but I don't want to check my time and it stresses me out and I feel like it's bringing me out of it. But you guys hear me when I say this, that if you're having the thought, I wonder how much time has passed, then you've already sort of innocently floated up to the waking state. And then you just check your watch. And if it's not yet 20 minutes or however long you wanted to practice for, then you just close your eyes and you float back in. So you don't need to necessarily look for a specific cue from your body, but just check your watch and as many times as you want to. Okay, it's been about 3 minutes of the balancing breath. Okay, I'll go into come to your senses. Okay, that's been about 5 minutes. I'll move into the effortless silence. And then after a couple of weeks of this, you're going to start to just feel it. And you're going to start to just flow innocently and effortlessly between the techniques. But I want you to trust yourself. I want you to trust your body. Oh, and here's a really important point. While you're training yourself, just so you're not panicking about the time and so you don't sleep through your whole day, what you can do is you can set an alarm for about 25 or 27 minutes, just so that you have it there as a little backup plan, as a fail-safe and as a safety net to prevent you from sleeping through your whole day. So I hope that's helpful. Set a backup alarm. In the meantime, check the watch as many times as you want to. And then once you start to feel comfortable with it, you can just sort of intuit your way through it. Good. So Virginia is saying, sometimes I fall asleep while meditating. What can I do to stop that? Okay, so Virginia, this is a really great question and really important because a lot of times, especially as people are starting a practice, they think that they're falling asleep, but actually they're just falling into this what I call the bliss field. Okay, they're falling into this beautiful, restorative, rejuvenating state of consciousness that's different than waking, sleeping, or dreaming, but it feels very much like falling asleep. So as you're training yourself, I want you to give yourself full permission to just fall into that sleepy, sloppy feeling. And you guys have probably seen me do this, but this is like a trademark move for us, okay? This is great posture for us. If you actually fall asleep, this will happen. And you'll just fall right out of the chair, or you'll wake up an hour and a half later drooling, and both of those are sleep. But if you're relatively upright and you're coming up and out approximately around the time that you set for yourself, then that is not sleep. That's just the effortless silence. And I want you to give yourself full permission to be super sleepy and lazy and sloppy with that. Now, what you can do as a backup is just set that alarm that I was just talking about, like just at the 25 minute or the 27 mark, just in case you do actually fall asleep, which is pretty normal for some fatigue to come up and out for people in these first few days and weeks. So Luis is saying, I'm a 5th grade teacher. How long should my students meditate? Great question, Luis, and I love that you are inspired to share this with your students. So a couple of things. So a couple of people have asked me about this, about the M word, and as you guys know, this is training you to be a meditator, not necessarily a meditation teacher, right? I'm actually going to start a teacher training at Ziva later on this year, but I do think it's great to introduce some of these concepts to students. And I would say to start with kids, I think about 5 minutes is a good place to start. And if that works for them, you could build up to 6, and you could build up to 7. But the techniques with kids are quite different than the techniques with adults. I find that it's usually easier for them to do more active breath work type things. Okay, so we're going to do, oh, Luis, you're here on video. Hi, Luis.
Oh, hey.
Hi.
Hi. I'm trying that. Here we go. How's it going?
So good. It's nice to see your face.
Thank you. So, yeah, I appreciate you answering your question. I meditate with my students daily. So,
and what are you doing with them now?
The 6th phase, visions.
Oh, cool.
We kind of just, I did like a short version of it though, because
Great.
I know that they get restless pretty quickly.
Yeah. And so you said, so short version, so about how many minutes total are you doing right now?
I do like 5 to 7.
Great. I love that. So I think that if that's working for you, if it's working for them, then great. I also find, kids like to experiment with other things. So, but I think 5 to 7 is perfect for 5th grade. Yeah. What we do at Ziva is that when kids come to learn, we have them meditate for as many minutes as they are old. So 5-year-olds meditate for 5 minutes, 8-year-olds meditate for 8 minutes. And then it's kind of fun because each birthday they get to add on a new minute. But I think starting around there, especially with the 6th phase, I think is perfect.
Great.
Oh, cool.
Awesome. Thank you.
Sure. Nice to see your face.
And very quickly, do you have any suggestions as far as meditating? My wife's pregnant. I don't know if you just kind of do.
Congratulations. That's awesome. Okay, so I love working with pregnant ladies. I love teaching pregnant women to meditate because for my same time and energy, I get to make 2 meditators instead of just 1. And so it's really great. And pregnancy is a really important and awesome time to meditate because obviously you're very tired and you're burning up. You guys have heard me talk about the concept of adaptation energy in the webinar that I did with Vision. So adaptation energy is basically your ability to handle a demand. And when you're pregnant, you have so much demand on your body and your body's using so much energy to 3D print a human that any extra that you do is actually going right into the baby. So for pregnancy, I say just let her rip. You can go as much as and as long as feels comfortable and as much as you have time for. So I think, and no, don't be afraid of falling asleep. Don't be afraid of moving and adjusting. Just let yourself be as comfortable and let yourself be as luxurious as you can with the timing. Oh my gosh, who's that? Hi, Alania. It's so nice to meet you.
I feel like we're talking to celebrities. This is really cool.
Oh, thanks. I feel like, well, thank you so much. It is so lovely to meet your daughter and congratulations on the pregnancy. That's awesome.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Sure thing. Okay, so we have another question from Melissa, and she's saying, what do I do if I get lost in thought? So great question, Melissa. And we haven't, we talked a little bit about this on the Effortless Silence Day, and I would encourage you to watch that day's video again. If you start judging yourself for having the thoughts, and if you start judging yourself as thinking the thoughts are bad, know that that particular training on the Effortless Silence is a really good day video for you to revisit. So I'm probably going to talk about this differently than every other meditation teacher you've ever heard. Okay. Most people are teaching mindfulness, and mindfulness is a much more, there's a much shorter leash, and it's much more about focusing and concentrating and coming back to the breath or whatever technique it is that you're using. And I think in the translation of that in the West, somewhere we heard that thoughts are bad. Okay. I think there's like this one dude going around telling everybody that in order to meditate, you have to clear your mind. Right. And you guys have heard me say this, but I wish I could find this dude and teach him how to meditate, because it would make my job so much easier. So just know that you're gonna get lost in thought. You're gonna have thoughts. Some of them are gonna be enjoyable. Some of them are not gonna be enjoyable. Sometimes the thoughts will be fast. Sometimes they'll be slow, but it's not yours to control. The mind thinks involuntarily, just like the heart beats involuntarily. So you can't give your brain a command to shut up any more than you can give your heart a command to stop beating. And so if you get lost in thought, then great, you got lost in thought. And then when you realize that you're off on a mental field trip, that's your cue to ever so gently go back to whatever technique you were on. If you were on the breath part, then great, come back to the breath. If you're on the senses part, great, come back to the senses. If you're on effortless silence, great, come back to the word one. Don't sweat it, but know that you're not failing. You don't need to be like, oh crap, I was thinking about my taxes. Oh God, I was thinking about my ex-boyfriend. No beating yourself up, no self-flagellation. Just take the field trip. And then when you realize that you're taking a field trip, float back to wherever you were on the technique. Really good and important question. Okay, so Anessa is saying, what if I have no thoughts during effortless silence? Is that the intended goal? So if you're having no thoughts during that, then you've probably moved into or dropped into that state that I call the bliss field, which is lovely. It feels nice. It's a fun new toy, but it's not the point. It's not the goal. It's not the only time you're in it. It's not the only time it's working. It's just one of the things that can happen on the cycle that is meditation. And the tricky thing about the bliss field is that you never know that you're there when you're there, right? You're never having the thought of like, oh yes, I'm currently in bliss field and it's currently amazing. Because by definition, you don't know that you're there when you're there. So normally you know it right afterwards, where you're like, oh my gosh, I think I was just doing it. Oh my gosh, I'm the best meditator in the land. Wait, now I want it back. Wait, mantra, mantra, mantra. And you start using the word a lot and you start chasing the dragon. And that's all normal. What gets easier is just letting it come when it wants to and letting it last for as long as it needs to. But if we think that that's the goal, then we're going to go into that effortless silence with a lot of effort and a lot of an agenda. And as you guys know, that's the lazy part of the meditation. Really good question. Okay, so Tom is saying, I have missed multiple classes. How do I come up to date? So I'd say, Tom, don't sweat it. You're ahead of schedule. A lot of people go their whole lives and never ever experience any meditation. So no, you're ahead of schedule. There's no race. And I would just start where you left off. So if you missed day 5, then just watch day 5. And then the next day, watch day 6, watch day 7. You can still join. The only thing that's super time specific are these live calls. And as you're, I mean, you can still participate regardless of how many videos you've watched. So I would say wherever you left off, watch that day and then just build on each day. But you're ahead of schedule, no last chances. So Jonathan is asking, can we do M word with our significant other? Good question. So I think, you know, it's totally fine to meditate together and with other people. I would say if they want to do the training, then it'd probably be good for them to sign up and register and get their own login and get their own access, and so they can join all the groups and tribes and really get the full support. But once they do that, I would say 100% do it together. It's actually really lovely to meditate in a group. At Ziva, we always, sometimes during our staff meetings, we'll have a big group meditation, and it's so delightful. Or even your pets can sort of count as a group meditation. You guys might be noticing that your pets want to be near you when you're meditating. And I would recommend, especially with dogs and cats, just let them in the room with you. Let them be near you, because dogs can actually hear that your breathing is slowing and that your heart rate is slowing. And if they're not in the room with you, then sometimes they feel like you're dying. And then they get scared and they want to get in there. Good. So Sheila, is it all right to practice the M word more than once a day? So right now, I mean, the practice is intended to be done first thing in the morning, and it's intended to be done once a day. But if you wanted to do it up to twice a day, I'm okay with that, especially up until we start part 2, because part 2 is really going to give you some real world meditation and some guided visualizations you can use in your life and in your day. But in the meantime, excuse me, if you want to do this like in that mid-afternoon slump, then that's a totally fine time. I would say if you're going to do it twice, it would be first thing in the morning, and the second one will want to happen where you have that like hormonal dip where that mid-afternoon slump comes. Instead of the coffee, the chocolate, or the nap, you could do the M word technique again. And then once you move through part two, then you could use some of those guided visualizations for that. Good. Lisa, I love it. You guys are coming in with so many questions, hot and heavy. I'll take a sip of tea. So Debbie is saying, can I diffuse essential oils, scented candles while I meditate, or would that inhibit the process? So I would actually say either are fine. My preference would be essential oils instead of candles, but really either is fine. Essential oils, because specifically lavender is very, very soothing, very relaxing. And if you meditate a lot with essential oils happening, then sometimes if you are feeling a little stressed, if you're needing to access creativity while you're working on something, then you could diffuse the same oil that you're used to diffusing while you meditate, and that can be a fun sense memory experiment. And candles are lovely, but I personally find that the flicker of the candle feels a little strobe-like to my eyes, and even though my eyes are closed, I find it a little I don't know, not distracting, because there's no such thing as distractions in this style of meditation, but it just hurts my eyes a little bit, that flicker. So, but either are fine. It's personal preference. It's not going to mess anything up. So Thomas is asking, what can you do if you get stuck in a particular portion, say come to your senses or gratitude, and lose track of where you are in the meditation? So Thomas, know that this is very normal. It's probably going to happen more often than not. And I would say just go with it. And then when you realize that you're lost in one of the sections of it, then you have two options. You check the time, like I've been teaching you. And if you're like, whoa, 20 minutes has passed and now I need to go get ready for work, then just take a moment or two with your eyes closed. It's always good to just close with a moment of gratitude. And just, you don't want to rip the Band-Aid. You don't want to be like, 20 minutes and jump into activity, because that's going to give you some headaches and irritability. So ease out. But if you've finished your meditation time, then fine. You can just come to an easy conclusion. And if you still have time to go, then wherever you were in the sequence, then just move on to the next phase of the sequence. But know that it's really normal to get lost. And so I want you to be super luxurious with it and give yourself the space to improvise inside of this. It's my job to make sure that you understand why we're doing them in this order. It's my job to make sure that you have this thing in your bones and that you can do it on your own. But then once you have the technique, then be gentle with yourself. Allow it to be fluid, and know that it doesn't have to be exactly precise, exactly 3 minutes and 5 minutes, that you can luxuriate a bit, transitioning between techniques. Okay, so we have an audio question. That's exciting.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Emily. It's such an honor to be speaking to you. This is Sunana, and I'm calling in from Dubai, UAE.
Great. I've never been to Dubai. I've always wanted to come. So if you ever feel inspired to organize a little meditation class, I'd love to come and meet you in person.
Definitely. Emily, my question was, there are some days which are good where I'm constantly listening, and I prefer guided meditation. So when you speak, it's really like honey in my ears, and it helps me to sort of float into the moment and all of that. And then there are a lot more days when I sit into the meditation and I have these 2 emails to send or 2 clients to coach, and there's stuff is going on in my mind, and I started with your guided meditation, and I wake up after 15 minutes and I'm like, oh God, I haven't meditated. It's as if I haven't heard a single word that you said. So how do I overcome days like that? How do I sort of snap back? I mean, how do I know? Because the 15 minutes go and I actually don't feel good, because I'm like, oh God, I've just wasted 15 minutes and I haven't heard a single word of what, I start with the breath work. And then after that, I wake up and I'm like, oh God, I have to send those 2 emails and I haven't done that. So how do I sort of, have more of the deeper days and the days when I'm like just not zoned in?
Okay, so tell me what's happening. So you start with the breath work, you hear my voice, and then what happens? Do you sort of drift into something that feels a bit like sleep, or is it just like emails, taxes, boyfriends, dog food?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And while all that's happening, you literally don't hear my voice anymore, or you hear it, but the louder thing is all the stuff you have to do.
Yes, the louder stuff is all the louder noise is the stuff I have to do. Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so really good question. I know you are not alone in this, so I'm so glad that you asked. So, a couple of things. One, know that thoughts are not the enemy. They're not the enemy at all. Even stressy thoughts, even thoughts about stuff that you have to do, even about your coaching clients, even about emails, even about taxes, even about exes. All that stuff is going to come up and out, and it's all good. It's all good. That stuff coming up and out is actually where the healing happens. That stuff coming up and out is actually the thing that's going to make you better at life. So the only thing that I would adjust about your practice is the part where you feel bad after 15 minutes when you're like, crap, I just wasted my time. I wasn't meditating because I wasn't deep. Because they're not all going to be deep. They're not all going to be like, we're not interested in focusing. We're not interested in snapping back. We're more interested in allowing the body to go on whatever journey it needs to go on that day. And ultimately, big picture, we're into eradicating stress from the nervous system so that we can start to use more of our cognitive capabilities with our eyes open in our waking state. And so everything you're doing sounds a-okay. And the only thing I would shift is just being like, oh crap, I didn't meditate. That was a waste of time. Because it wasn't a waste of time. And the way that you're going to prove that to yourself is that homework assignment that you did on day one, where you wrote down what your relationship was with stress. Did you do that?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So what I want you to do is like, in a couple of days, and then it's definitely on day 33, 34, I want you to look back on that. And I want you to start to see if things are starting to shift in your waking state with your work and your life and your sex life and your coaching clients. And then you can decide if it was a waste of time. But it's not about focusing. It's not about like perfectly being with me every step of the way. Know that your brain's going to drift off. Sometimes you're going to feel like you're sleeping. Sometimes you're going to be doing all kinds of other stuff. A-okay. Now here's what you can do. When you realize that you're doing your taxes or sending coaching client emails, when you realize that you're off, that's your cue to ever so gently, easily, lightly float back to whatever technique we're doing in that moment. Right? So if we're on the senses, then great, you just come back to the senses. If we're on effortless silence, then great, you come back to the word one. But no beating yourself up, okay? No punishing yourself for having thoughts, because thoughts are not the enemy of meditation. Effort is. And the more effort you use with this thing, the more you try to focus, the less you're going to enjoy it, and then the more likely you are to quit. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so it's basically telling myself whichever way it's working, it's working.
Yeah, it's like, there's a framework here. There's a parameter. It's like you want to have your back supported and your head free and you want to do this stuff in this order. Like there is a framework, but inside of that framework, whatever your body's reaction is that day is a-okay. And I think just giving yourself a lot of permission to let your body heal itself in the way that it intrinsically and intuitively knows how to heal, that's the way that you're going to enjoy this process the most.
So you wouldn't advise me to move the timing to like lunchtime when I take a break and have a 1 hour.
No, I would do. I would keep it first thing in the morning. Are you having coffee before you do it by any chance?
No, I just have some warm water.
Perfect. Yeah, perfect. That's great. Wake up, little hot water. Yeah. So it all sounds great. The only thing I would shift is just the beating yourself up.
Okay. Cool. Thanks so much.
It's my pleasure. It's lovely to hear your voice, and hopefully I'll see you soon.
Yes.
Good. Okay. So we have time for 3 more questions. So I would get them in while the getting's good. So Alexandria is saying, very helpful version of meditation. However, I'm finding it very uncomfortable to blast people with love and the love bomb. I assume it is acceptable to you to use gentle waves or rays or streams. 100%, Alexandria. I know that the word blast is a little aggressive. I know that the word bomb is a little aggressive. And that was kind of on purpose. It was a bit of a dichotomy of, we've got so much actual bombing happening on our planet right now. It was like, well, let's take this word back. Let's instead just, blast the whole planet with love. But you can absolutely vision this as gentle waves, or sometimes people like to picture it as light, or sometimes just an energy coming out of their heart. But whatever feels good for you. And know that, again, It's not about the actual visceral feeling that you're having in your body. If you're having a visceral feeling, then great, enjoy. But if you're not having that, then know that the intention is enough, and just using your imagination and sending it out there is enough. Really good question. Good. Hmm. So Debbie is asking, how do I know if it's working like it should? I'm not feeling any different. Am I lacking something? Good question, Debbie. I guarantee you're not alone. There's probably a lot of people being like, well, I'm just sitting here. I'm not vibrating. I'm not levitating. I'm not able to like move my spoon with my brain or anything. And for most of us, meditation is a very subtle and gentle journey. A lot of us are expecting like, we're expecting like, oh, I'm enlightened. And we're gonna like get these techniques and it's be like flipping on a light switch. But for most of us, it's much more like sloughing off like old dirty skin, right? It's just like sloughing away old calluses. And for most of us, it's a gentle, gradual process. And so what I would invite you to do is make sure you did that homework assignment on day one. And if you haven't done that yet, definitely do it now. And what I want you to look at is, how's your sleep quality? How's your compassion? How's your kindness? How creative are you? How's your energy throughout the day? And know that for a lot of people, it gets a little worse before it gets better. That sometimes things get highlighted for deletion. And so just be really gentle with yourself through this process. And also know that people who are quite kaphic in nature, so kapha is, in Ayurvedic medicine, there's 3 different doshas or body types. There's vata, pitta, and kapha, which is basically air and space, fire, and then earth and water. So vata is air and space, pitta is fire, and kapha is earth and water. And people who tend to have quite a bit of kapha in them, people who tend to have a lot of earth and water, their journey into meditation tends to be a little slower. And they tend to not feel the effects as dramatically or as quickly. But here's the good news, is that even if all of this is just a load of crap, okay? Even if all of this is just made up nonsense, which it's not, but even if it was, just you sitting quietly with your eyes closed for a few minutes a day is going to be very good for you. Most of us have become what I call bulimic of the brain. We're just intaking, and we never really have a time to digest. I mean, think about when you're waiting at a red light, or if you're waiting at an elevator, we don't, even for 30 seconds, we pull out our phone and we scroll through social media, or we answer a few emails. And so we don't really have downtime anymore. And so even if this was just a bunch of crap and you were just sitting there with your eyes closed, that would be enough, and that would be good for you. But the reality is, these techniques are specifically designed to start to wake up different parts of your brain. They're specifically designed to start getting rid of old stresses in your body, which is going to give your brain more of its computing power back, which over time is going to help you perform better. But just know that for a lot of people, it's not super fast or super dramatic. I would just be really gentle with yourself and celebrate your successes instead of worshiping all your non-achievements. Most of us are very good at worshiping everything we have not yet accomplished. And instead, I invite you to celebrate your successes. Celebrate the fact that you're doing this thing every day. Celebrate the fact that you're watching this live stream. Celebrate the fact that you're prioritizing yourself. And then just be open to letting this thing show up as it's meant. Good. Okay, so I have a text question from Alan. You had mentioned that how you feel during your meditation is not what's important, but how you feel in your life. How long does it take before you can start to see consistent improvement in life? I still get things that stress me out and anxiety. Good question, Alan. So everyone's different, okay? Everyone is different. This thing is going to show up for people differently. And you're right, I'm not that interested in how much you're enjoying the meditation itself. I'm interested in how you're performing at life. But notice that when I say that I'm interested in how you're performing at life, I do not mean never getting stressed or never having anxiety or never being sad. And this is really, really important. So if you've kind of tuned out, if you're listening to this with one ear, I need you to listen up. Okay, this is super duper important. Meditation is not going to turn you into just a little bliss bunny that never feels anything. Meditation is not going to take away your demands. Meditation is not going to take away your anxiety. It's not going to take away your sadness. You're still going to be human, okay? You're still going to feel. If anything, you're going to start feeling more intensely. So at no point did I promise in this program that you're never going to feel a feeling again. As a matter of fact, meditators tend to feel more. They feel more intensely, but they also feel faster. Okay? So imagine that you have a room and there's 20 people in the room. 10 of them are meditators, 10 of them are not meditators. And let's say a saber-toothed tiger runs in with the intent to kill. Now everybody's going to get stressed. And here's the thing to know. It's not bad for you to get stressed. I'm going to say that again. It is not bad for you to get stressed. It is terrible for you to stay stressed. It's that chronic stress that just keeps piling up and piling up and piling up. That is what is really toxic for us, and that's what decreases our performance capabilities. But it's not bad for you to get stressed, as provided that you do something to handle it, that you do something to, eradicate it from your nervous system, or that you start to adapt to it more elegantly. So 20 people in a room, 10 meditators, 10 non-meditators, to saber-toothed tiger comes in. Everybody gets stressed. That's an appropriate time to get stressed. The difference between the meditators and the non-meditators are that the meditators are at the bar telling a funny story about this tiger over drinks an hour later, and the non-meditators have to pay their therapist $300 a week for the next 10 years to handle the PTSD of the tiger that attacked them during their meditation class. So this is a really important reframe. Okay, so please don't expect that meditation is going to take away your feelings. If someone dies, you're going to be sad. You're going to feel it. And what's happening here is that this meditation is sort of softening the calluses and the shields that we've all been putting around our hearts. Because if you think that all this stuff out here has the ability to make you, if you're still under the I'll be happy when syndrome, that I'll be happy when I have a job or a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a car or a house or $1 million, if you give all this external stuff the importance and the ability to make you, then you're also giving it the importance and the ability to break you. Right? So you better protect yourself and you better guard yourself, which is what all these emotional calluses and shields are. But what starts to happen over time as we start meditating is we start curating and cultivating and accessing our own bliss and fulfillment in the only place that they reside, which is inside of us. And the byproduct of that is that as you come out of the meditation, you're no longer under the illusion that your happiness lives out here, because you just flooded your own brain and body with dopamine and serotonin. So you're no longer under the illusion that this one job, this one person, this one place, this one thing can make you happy. And if this stuff can't make you, then it also cannot break you. So you don't have to protect yourself from it. So you can put the shields down, you can put the calluses away, and then you start to feel more fully. You become more sensitive. Things start affecting you more deeply, but then you immediately move through to the new now. And this is why we have a stereotype of meditators being little bliss bunnies. It's why we assume that they're never feeling anything, because they seem like they're always happy, but they're not. Okay, I've taught 2,000 people to meditate face-to-face and about 5,000 people online. Hear me when I say this. Meditation doesn't make you happy 24 hours a day. What it does is that it gives you access to your bliss, which is not the same thing as happiness. Bliss is the piece of you that knows that everything's okay. And paradoxically, once you start to prove to yourself that you have access to that, it frees you up to start feeling the entire spectrum of emotions. And that, to me, is a beautiful life. It's a rich life. And so please don't hold yourself to an impossible standard. Know that it's okay to feel anxiety. It's okay to feel stressed. It's okay to feel sad. And now know that you have this beautiful tool that's going to help you to reset. It's going to help you to come back to this fulfillment and access it internally, so you can start to see your life as a means by which to deliver that, but not as a way to be numb. Really good. So I think that is a beautiful place to stop. I think that's a really valuable take home, that meditation allows us to move from need, looking for fulfillment, and instead turns us into fulfillment, looking for need. So that's a little homework assignment for you. As you go through the week this week, look at, what can I contribute to this situation? How can I be more kind? How can I be more compassionate? How can I be more creative? What can I offer? What of my fulfillment can I deliver to this situation, instead of what can I get? What can I take? What can you do for me? And here's the paradoxical thing that happens, is that when you start to approach life from that state of consciousness, all the stuff that you want starts to show up by accident. All right, friends, it's been so lovely to see your faces and hear your voices and read your questions. I'm truly honored to get to go on this quest and go on this journey with you. So I would love for you guys to share your thoughts about this session, and what was your key learning point. I'd love to hear that. You can do that in the chat box. I think, is that where you want us to do it, in the chat box? So what did you think about this session? Was it helpful? Was it annoying? Did you like my face? Did you not like my face? Don't write about my face. And tell me what your key learning point was. Was there an aha moment that you had? I'd love to learn that. So yeah, so I'd say my big takeaways from this session are, one, that the timing is something that we really didn't touch on the timing too much in the training so far. And so a lot of people are coming up with timing questions, which is important. And that's exactly where we are in the training. You're starting to move from me guiding you through the M word technique and you starting to move into doing it on your own. So just to reiterate that, 15 to 20 minutes total is what you want to do for the M word technique. And then those chunks you can do really as long as feels comfortable to you. About 3 minutes on the balancing breath, about 5 minutes on the senses, 5 minutes on the effortless silence. And then you can play with the gratitude and the love bomb for whatever time you have left. So the timing was a really good one. And then I think this other point about why is the meditation, why am I still having stress? I'm meditating now. I'm 16 days in. Like, shouldn't I be enlightened by now? Shouldn't I never have a feeling? But that is not the way. Meditation is not going to keep you from feeling. It's actually just going to make you feel more intensely, but you're going to feel faster. So you move through to the new now, which is where our bliss and fulfillment hang out. Okay. So Christopher's saying, I feel enlightened. I seriously do, Emily. Amazing. This is coming from someone who has attempted to kill himself many times. I'm sorry to hear that, Christopher. And cared about what others thought about me and lived through the external world. There was a shift inside of me. I see the world very differently. I operate from within now. I'm so happy to be around others and just so many good things. Wow, Christopher, that's huge. And bravo to you for doing the work and for bravely facing what I'm sure are some really intense feelings. It's, I have so much compassion for people that are dealing with extreme anxiety and extreme depression. And I know how intense it must feel to really get to that point in life where you are considering ending it. And just to just throw this out there, that if anybody watching this or anyone doing the M word, it starts to feel that, or if like the unstressing gets super intense, I cannot encourage you guys enough to make sure that you reach out to a support system, reach out to a therapist, reach out to a doctor, get your friends and family supporting you, and know that we're all cheering you on and loving you and that you're not alone. And there's lots and lots of resources to help you, but don't feel like you have to do this alone. I know that the unstressing can be intense, but that's really beautiful, and I'm glad that you've made such a dramatic turnaround. And sometimes looking death right in the face is the thing that really wakes us up. And sometimes that happens voluntarily, sometimes it happens involuntarily, that we hit these, crisis moments in life or these rock bottom moments. And then, if we make it through, then it gives us this whole new perspective and insight, which is really beautiful. So thank you for sharing that. So Jacqueline's saying, I love the last point about what bliss actually is. That was super helpful. Awesome. I agree. And this, just to clarify, bliss is not a synonym for happiness. Bliss is the piece of you that knows that everything's okay. And it's possible to experience bliss even when you're sad. It's possible to experience bliss even when you're happy, even when you're jealous, even when you're angry. And it might be 0.001% of you that's experiencing bliss, but it's always there. And what this meditation practice is going to do is it's going to breathe life into that bliss, into that background of bliss, which is going to free you up to experience the entire spectrum of emotions. So I love hearing this. I love you guys sharing what your key takeaways were and how you found the session. So keep them coming. I really love it. So Antonella is saying, awesome session. I loved how you said meditation will not make you simply blissful, but instead resilient to the stresses. Awesome. I love that. Okay, so Kim says her key takeaway is that we're all different. Just go with it. And the point here is improving life. Yeah, we meditate to get good at life, not to get good at meditation. And so, yeah, there's some techniques and some guidelines, but inside of that, it's kind of a choose your own, well, it's not choose your own adventure, but it's like, I'm going to give you the lines to color inside of, but inside you get to choose the crayons. You get to go on your own journey. So Lee's biggest takeaway is that I'm moving from need looking for fulfillment and into fulfillment looking for need. That's right. And then just watch as that starts to change everything in your life. And here, just to I mean, we kind of did this on the webinar when we talked about the dinner party exercise, but think about the people in your life who you really like being around. Do you like being around the person who's like always late and broke and sad and frustrated and stressy and always needs your help? Or do you sometimes like to be around someone who's early and prepared and creative and has a suggestion to share with you? My hypothesis is it's nice to hang around with people that have something to offer, something to contribute. And Trisha is saying, great session. I love the time clarifications. That we celebrate doing. Oh, and then we watch for our life factors to change in our life. Oh, and she said she is sleeping better and you're less stressed overall already. Good job. Amazing. And Shaylin saying, my key learning has been that meditation is not meant to make you numb. The feelings are good and make life rich. That's right. And so Alexandria, is saying, helpful session, particularly appreciated. There we go. Okay, that's much easier. Particularly appreciated being reminded, where did it go? To celebrate your successes rather than worshiping your non-achievements. That's right. And that's a good rule for meditation. It's also a really good rule for life. You know, you can't build on top of success you don't acknowledge. So let's celebrate how far we've come. You guys were 16 days in. A lot of people would have already quit this thing by now. A lot of people might have quit this thing by now, but you haven't. You're in it. You're doing the work. And it's work, right? So celebrate that. So Julie is saying, the takeaway from the session is I now give myself permission to be human. That means it's normal for me to get stressed or sad. Hooray. Just this piece of information will help me move forward. Yeah, this is a big one. It's really, really important. Otherwise, we're like holding ourselves to some like unattainable standard of being some blissy angel bliss bunny. And that's not the point. That's not life. If there's going to be light, there has to also be dark. You can't see white unless there is black. You can't see black unless there is white. So we have the whole range of emotions and feelings. Yeah, that's really good. So thank you guys so much for your time. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for trusting me to lead you on this journey and on this quest. It really, truly is an honor. And know that I'm really committed to helping you through this journey. I want to support you however I can. I love being in the tribe. I love how much you guys are supporting each other. So let's keep that coming. And I'm going to be sending you guys so much love. I'm going to be sending you guys all a big love bomb. And I'll see you on our next Q&A in a little bit. Bye. Here we are at day 16. So as you start to move towards self-sufficiency and you start to do the M-word technique on your own, it's really important that you get into the habit of scheduling it. And I'm going to go ahead and preemptively warn you about the number one excuse that starts to come up for people who are creating a meditation habit. They say to me, Emily, I want to meditate. I know it's good for me. I feel so amazing when I do it, but I am busy. Right? Like we all think that we're the busiest person in the land, right? But here's the news. If Oprah has time to meditate, you have time to meditate. All of the high achievers in the world, all the, the Ray Dalios and the Seahawks and the Olympic athletes, they're not meditating because they have copious amounts of extra time. They're meditating because they know it's going to make them better at life. Right? So you really got to reframe the way that you think about meditation, and don't think about it like wasted time or lazy time. Think about it like priming your brain and body to perform at the top of your game. So saying that you're too busy to meditate is like saying that you don't have time to stop and get gas for your car. It's like, okay, well, do you have time to run out of gas? Because that's going to cost you a lot more time. So here's a fun way to think about the meditation. You want to put it in the non-negotiable category, like I said, and I like to think about that famous college lecture. There was a professor that came out and he had a whole bunch of college students and he had 2 glasses. And one was filled with a half a glass of sand and the other was filled with a thing of golf balls. And then he had a 3rd glass and he poured the golf balls into the 3rd glass. And then he poured the sand in around it. And the sand filled exactly up to the top, to the rim of the glass. And then he poured it all out. And then he started with the sand. He poured the sand in first, and then he tried to fit in the golf balls, and there wasn't enough room. All the golf balls were spilling out of the top of the glass. So the moral of the story is that if you put the priorities into your day first, there's plenty of time for Facebooking and complaining and drinking. But if you start your day with Facebooking, complaining, and drinking, then it's pretty hard to get to the gym, it's pretty hard to eat well, and it's really hard to meditate. So the not so secret to committing to your meditation practice is scheduling it. So I know I gave you that homework assignment on the first day, but let's revisit that. I want you to actually pull out your phone, look at the next 15 days on your calendar, and actually schedule your meditation. Now, I recommend the best time is first thing in the morning, before coffee, before breakfast, before computer. And as we start to move into part 2, that's going to be your assignment. You just wake up, freshen up, and meditate, and then you'll do the video training right after. So I'd say all told, 25, 30 minutes of the meditation and the training. So before I walk you through a perfect day in the life of a meditator, I just really want to drive home this busy piece, okay? Think about your brain like a computer. Okay, and let's imagine that you're at work and you're typing an email, and then you decide to take a little break. So you pop open a window of Facebook, and then you pop open some YouTube, and then some Twitter, and then some Instagram, and then some Hulu, and then some Vine. And let's just say that you had 10 million open windows on your computer, and then you think, maybe I should get back to work. And you go to type that email, but the cursor is 20 spaces behind, and you're like, ugh, stupid computer, can't even type an email. Well, this computer is plenty capable of typing an email, but if you're using all of its computing power to run these 10 million open windows, then you're slowing down its ability to perform the task at hand. So what meditation does is that it goes in and it gives our body deep rest. It de-excites our nervous system, which is the equivalent of going in and opening, maximizing all of these old windows so that you can click X and get them out of your body. And then the less open windows you have on your brain, the more brain power you have for the task at hand. So this is why meditators report being able to do more in less time. They're able to do less and accomplish more. So that's what we want to start to move towards. So I hope that computer analogy is helpful. So now let's talk about perfect day in the life of a meditator. So it actually has to start the night before, right? You're gonna have to set your alarm for 30 minutes earlier than you normally get up. And I get that that might be very hard right now because you might be very tired. Oftentimes in the first few days and weeks of meditation, some old fatigue can start to come up and out, but do it anyway. Just rip the Band-Aid, put your feet on the ground, get out of bed, freshen up, and then first thing, before coffee, before breakfast, before computer, you're gonna do the M-word technique. You're gonna prime your brain and body to perform at the top of your game. And then you're gonna move into the part 2 training, right? And then what we're gonna learn in part 2 is basically real world meditation, practical applications of meditation. And these are some tips and some tricks you can use out in your day, in the land with your eyes open. As far as exercise and meditation goes, I recommend that you meditate first and then exercise because it's going to give you a lot more energy for your workout. And especially if you're going to a gym or meeting with a trainer, then you definitely want to meditate first. I know I keep saying this analogy about brushing your teeth, but you wouldn't leave your house without brushing your teeth because that's rude and gross. I don't want you leaving your house without meditating. So if you meet a trainer or go for a workout class outside of your house, then definitely do the M-word technique first. So I know that you might have heard other people say, well, I meditate right before bed and it's really relaxing right before bed. And certainly there are guided visualizations that you can use to help induce sleep, but this is not one of them. This M-word technique is really designed to be done first thing in the morning to prime your brain and body to perform at the top of your game. So just like you wouldn't leave your house without brushing your teeth, I don't want you to leave your house without meditating. So just wake up, freshen up, and then first thing, hit the chair. And then just watch as your life starts to up level. You start to notice a little bit more ease, a little bit more elegance, a little bit more compassion, a little bit more serendipity, and know that the effects of this are cumulative. So the longer you have a practice, the more benefits you're going to start to notice. So with that said, I want you to dive on into the M-word technique for today. And feel free to use my voice guiding you along. And then in a few days, we'll start to move towards doing it on your own. Happy meditating, and I'll see you tomorrow. Here we are. We're at the very end of part 1 of the M word technique. High five. You got 1,000,000 gold stars. You've learned this priming practice. Celebrate your successes. Celebrate having moved through all of part 1. But really, truly figure out something that's going to give you some skin in the game and inspire you to stay committed. So go ahead and get settled. I'm sure you have your favorite meditation spot by now. Close the eyes. Let your back be supported. Let your head be free. Take your right hand. We're going to use our thumb and our ring finger. And closing the right nostril with your thumb and exhaling through the left. Inhaling through the left. And switching. Closing your left nostril with your ring finger and exhaling through the right. Inhaling through the right. Floating at the top of the inhale and switching sides and exhaling through the left. Floating at the bottom of the exhale and then letting that air just fall back into the lungs as we inhale on the right. Floating there at the bottom of the exhale and then allowing that air to fall back into the lungs as we inhale on the left side. You can start to take this in your own time, inhaling through the right and then switching sides, out through the left, in through the left, switching out through the right, in through the right. And you're probably finding that even already your body knows what it's doing. Your body's starting to make a habit. You're starting to pave some neural pathways in your brain. That just you sitting down with the intention to do the M word, just you starting this balancing breath is enough to start to induce some deep rest and some deep relaxation in the body. So do one more delicious cycle, out through the left, in through the left. The biggest inhale you've taken all day. One more sip of air, switching sides and out through the right, all the way to empty. Filling your lungs, letting that energy come up in through the base of the spine. And as you exhale, sending that breath and that energy out through the middle of your forehead. Good, and keeping the eyes closed, but letting your hands gently drop into your lap. And we'll start to wake up all 5 of our senses, really including everything that's happening in your environment inside of your meditation. Letting go of the old idea that you're supposed to be deaf, dumb, and blind in a cave of nothingness, and just giving yourself permission to be a human person in the real world and meditating at the same time. So start to hear what you're hearing. Feel what you're feeling. See what you're seeing. Taste what you're tasting. And smell what you're smelling. We start with each sense individually, and now we'll start to enjoy all 5 at the same time. It's through our 5 senses that we access our 6th sense. The present moment is the future in the making, so the more grounded we are in our bodies, the higher quality seeds we plant for the future. So simultaneously, hear what you're hearing. Feel what you're feeling. See what you're seeing. Taste what you're tasting and smell what you're smelling. And on your next breath, see if you can walk through your 5 senses on your own. Perhaps holding 3 or 4 of them and then coming back to one singular sensation, just like a chorus line. So again, hear what you're hearing, feel what you're feeling, see what you're seeing, taste what you're tasting, and smell what you're smelling. So good. And from this space of an expanded awareness and an acceptance of everything that's going on around you, we'll move into the effortless silence. Gently intending to hear this word in the background of your mind, knowing that the less effort you use with the word, the more powerful it is. Letting it be an echo. Just one, one, one. And giving it permission to slip away and not trying to control the tempo. Just letting it do its thing. You're now a passenger in the mind vehicle that is the mantra. Letting it act as an anchor to settle your mind and body down, to de-excite your nervous system, to give your body this deep rest so that you can be even more awake on the other side. Giving yourself full permission to let the body have whatever experience it wants to have. If you feel sleepy, you can fall into that feeling. If you're having thoughts, that's okay. We gently float back to the word. You're doing great. We'll be here for a few minutes. Don't mind the time. Keep the eyes closed, but we'll let go of that word inside. Again, imagining like we're cutting the cord to an anchor and giving ourselves permission to start to flow and float back up to the surface into the waking state. And as we float up, as we start to bring our awareness into the body, I invite you to think of 3 things that you're most grateful for right now in this moment. And again, even if you can't think of anything, just asking the question is enough to change the chemistry of your brain. But the reality is there's always something to be grateful for. The fact that you have air to breathe, or food to eat, or people who love you. And noticing what that gratitude does to your body. Now we're going to finish with this love bomb. I want you to imagine that someone you love is sitting right across from you, about 2 feet in front of you. Just take a look at their face. And you love this person so intensely that it actually creates a physical sensation in your body. And as you inhale, you breathe into that sensation. You allow that oxytocin, that love chemical, to start to permeate every cell in your body, noticing that it opens your body, it softens your body. And as you exhale, I want you to send as much love as you can to this person. Just blasting them with love, charging up every cell in their body with this beautiful feeling of genuine love. Really good. And on your next inhale, breathing in that sensation, supercharging your body with this feeling of love, and then sending that out to your whole building. So every person, place, and thing in the building that you're in right now, I want you to blast the whole thing with love. You could almost imagine that your body is filling up the whole building. Or you could imagine filling it with a golden light or a white light. Or even just waves of love radiating right from your heart. There's no right or wrong way to do this. On your next inhale, we're inhaling and we're supercharging our body with love. And as we exhale, send that out to your whole city. Your family, your extended family, your coworkers, your friends, your enemies, your exes. Blast them all with love. Wrapping your whole city in a beautiful golden bubble of love. Really good. And on your next breath, we inhale that feeling into our body. And if you need to reconnect with that person sitting across from you, you can always come back to that. But as you flood your body with love, now I want you to send that out to the whole world. So every country, every race, every religion, every gender, every sexual preference, we're blasting the whole thing with love. You can imagine that as a beautiful golden light wrapping around the planet. And imagine that for just a moment, maybe someone can actually feel it. Maybe someone who feels alone or isolated or scared starts to feel a sensation of connectedness or safety, or actually allows a little smile to come to their face. And know that as you're sending that love out, it's wrapping all the way around the planet and it's coming back to you. So giving yourself permission to really be a vessel. So we have an outward flow of this energy and we're also simultaneously receiving it. Really good. And on your next breath, breathing in that sensation of love and now sending that out to the whole universe. Beyond the solar system, beyond the galaxy, beyond the clusters of galaxies, and out into the entirety of all that is, blasting the entire universe with love. Reminding yourself that you are a part of the universe and the universe is a part of you. The exact same thing that makes up every star in every galaxy in the whole universe is the exact same thing that makes up your body. So taking a moment to enjoy that, enjoying that sense of connectedness, that sense of expansiveness, and really blasting the whole universe with love, and simultaneously allowing yourself to receive that. And then we gently bring our awareness back into the whole body, floating for a moment between the two, undulating between the individuality and the totality, your whole body and the whole universe. Letting the wave remind itself that it is the ocean, and the ocean is the wave. Giving yourself permission to be fully human and tapped into your own internal divinity at the same time. Really good. And from this space of connectedness and expansiveness and love, we're going to start to gently come out of the meditation. So taking a nice deep inhale, breathing some life into the body, and exhaling, starting to move your hands, moving your feet, bringing your awareness into the room. And taking your time, bringing your eyes to halfway open, and then closing them again. Taking a delicious inhale through your nose and opening your eyes a little bit further. And when you're feeling ready, we can start to slowly, gently open the eyes. I'm so incredibly excited to be doing this. I'm so excited to be able to connect and to hear how your journey's going, what questions are coming up, what successes you want to celebrate. Okay, so our first question is from Marai. Says, I love this and I haven't missed a single day. However, I notice fear coming up when I imagine shifting to doing the practice alone. It's so supportive to have you and the whole group on the journey with me. I feel afraid that I won't have the stamina to continue regularly after the quest has ended. Please advise. Okay, so Mariah, I know that you're not alone, and this is a great, great question. Now, the good thing that you should know is that because we structured it into be micro-learning, you're going to have 33 days of momentum build up behind you, and you're going to have this tribe, this group of people loving you and supporting you from all over the world. But the reality is that there's going to be resistance that comes up. I think that resistance is our fear of our success. And resistance is that stress inside of us that wants to stay alive, the piece of us that wants to stay small. And that's going to come up, and it's going to be potentially a legitimate thing for you to come up against. And so what I recommend that you do is that you just decide. You just make this non-negotiable. I think everyone on this call right now should just put this thing in the non-negotiable bucket. Because the second you start negotiating with it, maybe later, maybe 5 minutes, maybe 10, maybe after I have cocktails, you're done. Right? You've got to wake up, freshen up, meditate. Wake up, freshen up, meditate. And don't let your mind, that left brain critical mind, start negotiating with you. There's an amazing woman, I can't remember her name right now, but she's one of the highest paid speakers in the world. And she basically talks about the 5-second rule. And she says that when her alarm goes off in the morning, she gives herself 5 seconds, like a rocket ship. She goes, I go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then she just gets out of bed and she starts her day. And she's like, if I take more than that, I snooze again, I don't go to the gym, I don't meditate. And so what I would say is when it's time to meditate, and you could set an alarm on your phone for before, not after. When that alarm goes off, you could go, okay, I'm giving myself 5, 4, 3, 2, and then you sit down and you meditate and you just do it. But know that you're not alone, and this is really the only way people are like, I want to be the best meditator in the land, I want to be advanced. Here's how you get to be an advanced meditator, by meditating. That's the only part of this that's hard, is getting your buns in the chair. But know that we'll be cheering you on along the way. Okay, so Juan is saying, what is the best way to detach from Emily's guided meditation, i.e. to go solo, to do it on our own without the audio guide? How do you, Emily, meditate? The way that we structured the M word is that part 1 is designed to give you that morning priming practice. That practice is designed to make you self-sufficient. And so we're repeating things again and again and building on top of skills so that each time it gets more at home, more in your bones, more in your soul. And I would say just try it once and be willing to fail. do one on your own and see how it goes. And just remember the order. You could even write down the bullets of the order, and then before you meditate, just look at it and then sit down and start. And know that it doesn't have to be perfect. Like obviously when I'm guiding you, I'm giving you little cues, but just like if you started taking yoga at a studio with your teacher, you could certainly do some sun salutations on your own, even if someone wasn't guiding you. Would it be perfect? Would you have the exact same extension or expansion? No, but you would be getting it done. And doing some sun salutations on your own is infinitely better than none at all. So when I personally meditate, I'm doing something very, very similar to what I offer in the M word. It's just the timing's a little bit longer. My mantra's a little bit more powerful. Because it's the mantras that I teach in the Ziva technique when I teach face to face in person. But the gratitude piece, the love bomb piece, all of that I'm just doing on my own. But thank you for that. That's great. Okay, so Jaspreet is asking, sometimes during meditation you can suddenly be disturbed by the ringing of a doorbell, phone, or message. I'm a single mom, so I can't totally switch off. This really interrupts my peaceful state of mind. How do we then get back to that deep relaxation when this happens? Okay, so there's a couple of things I want to address here, Jaspreet, and one is the idea that you should be getting deep. Now, this is so incredibly integral for you guys to take with you, because if you're still judging a deep meditation as good and a shallow meditation as bad, this is going to be a really long road, and you're going to feel like you're failing, and you're going to feel increasingly like you're failing over time. So we got to rewire this right now. We got to realize that a deep meditation is no better for you than a shallow, thought-filled meditation. And why is that? Because deep meditation is giving you rest. Shallow meditation means that your body and mind are releasing stresses in the form of thoughts. Okay? So noise, the other thing to address here is that noise is no barrier to the M word. Noise is no barrier. Anywhere that you can think a thought, you can think about any of these techniques, and then you can do them on your own. And the reality is there's nowhere on the planet Earth that is silent. Think about that for a second. There is nowhere on the planet Earth that is silent. Even in nature, even in a cave in the Himalayas, there's going to be wind or a fly or a wolf or a bird. And so silence is not the goal. Turning into a deaf person is not the goal. Now, the reason why you're finding it so disruptive, the reason why your heart might be racing is because when you're doing the M word, your nervous system is de-exciting and your metabolic rate is dropping. And so your mind is going to have spidey senses. You're going to have this sort of hyper alertness or hyper awareness mentally. And that's what's allowing your body to get such deep rest physically. And it is that deep physical rest that allows you to perform at the top of your game in your waking state. So basically, because the mind is on spidey sense, any sound, any horn, doorbell, that's going to really, it's going to feel jarring. But then no big deal, and you just go back to the technique after the noise happens. The way you want to think about noise is like pulling the lens of your awareness back and letting all the sounds just move through you. Don't try to block it out. And just because you're a mom, that's okay. You can meditate with your kids in the same room. You can meditate with your kids screaming next to you, and let go of this idea that you should be turning off. The only time the brain flatlines is when we're dead. Okay, good. So from Yolande, she says, I find it distracting when one nostril is plugged. What's an alternative to alleviate the distraction? All right, so you guys, this word distraction, we're going to take it, we're going to throw it out the window. I don't like this word very much because the word distraction implies that there is a goal. Yes? You can only be distracted from something if you have a goal of where you need to be. And a deep meditation is no better for you than a shallow meditation, so we're not going to try and get anywhere. We're not going to have a goal of where we need to go, so then there's nothing to be distracted by. If your nostril's plugged, then your nostril's plugged. If the doorbell rings, then the doorbell rings. If a phone goes off, then a phone goes off. There's nowhere on the planet that is silent. We're not trying to go into a cosmic abyss of black hole nothingness. So if your nostril's plugged, just let it be plugged. Yeah, nothing really to do about that. Now, if you're talking about during the balancing breath, then that's a different story. So balancing breaths, obviously, if your left nostril's plugged and then you're closing your right one, then you can't breathe at all. So if one nostril's plugged, then you could just do it on one side. Or you could simply do like a 2x breath, which is where you just inhale for 2 and exhale for 4. So we can try that together. We can just inhale for 2 and exhale for 4. You could even exhale through your mouth if that's easier. In for 2 and out for 4. We'll do one more just because it feels nice. And out for 4. So this 2x breath, as I'm sure you guys have heard me say, is just calming down the vagus nerve, and that's a nice alternative to the balancing breath if you're having a cold or stopped up. Okay, so from Ineka, Ineka, I have a blocked nostril, which makes balancing breathing impossible for me. I can exhale, but not inhale. Is there another way? So it's not the foundation. You don't have to be worried. This is just the balancing breath is a way to de-excite the nervous system, and it's a way to pull the bow on the bow and arrow back to prepare the body for the rest of the technique. If that doesn't work for you, then do that 2x breath that I just showed you. In for 2, out for 4. Also really beautiful technique. So thanks for asking that. And I know that for whatever reason, I've never gotten so many questions about the balancing breath. So don't freak out about it, okay? If one nostril's plugged, just use the other nostril. If that doesn't work for you, use a different breathing technique. My personal favorite is that 2x, in for 2 and out for 4. Okay, so Jackie's asking, how long have you been a meditator, and how long did it take for you to notice significant changes in your everyday life? So I've been meditating for about 10 and a half years now. And for me, because what I learned originally, I took a course face-to-face, which is more similar to what I teach in the Ziva Live program. And so for me, it cured my insomnia on the first day. I stopped getting sick. I didn't get sick for 8.5 years. I stopped going gray, 38 years old now, and I have like barely any gray hairs. But the biggest and the most immediate for me was the insomnia. But now I've taught over 7,000 people to meditate, and everyone's different. Some people notice big changes right away, and some people are just slow and steady wins the race. There's no right way. The way we want to think about the meditation is that it's peeling away, like sloughing off the old calluses, peeling away all the old stresses bit by bit, meditation by meditation. And what's happening for me now that I'm like 10 years in is that I notice that my relationships are sweeter. Certainly my romantic relationships are better. I guess, just with my husband, it's very supportive, it's very kind, it's very adult, whereas I feel like I used to be in sort of borderline abusive relationships. My relationship with food has really changed. I never really had an eating disorder, but I didn't not have an eating disorder. I had a very sort of punishment and reward relationship with food because I was a dancer and I was a model, and so I was always like watching what I was eating, and now I just eat food and I nourish my body, and I'm not using it as like this reward thing. I notice a whole lot more serendipity and synchronicity in my life. I've learned this new word called pronoia, and it's my favorite new word, pronoia, Pronoia, and it is the opposite of paranoia. It is the belief that the universe is constantly conspiring to shower you with blessings. And I think that's such a beautiful concept, but that to me is what meditation has started to deliver over time, over regular practice of making it non-negotiable, getting to the chair every day. I started to notice that my whole life is pronoia. And that doesn't mean I don't have challenges. That doesn't mean I don't get sad or angry, or that people stop dying, or that there stops being traffic. Like all that stuff still happens. But even that, I start to reframe. I start to see as, why is this happening for me versus why is this happening to me? And I think in life, the faster you can get to the lesson without the spiritual bypass. I'm not saying don't feel your feelings, but the faster you can get to, well, what am I meant to learn? How am I meant to grow? How can I use this for mine and everyone's good? Then the more you're living your life in that state of pronoia. Good. Okay, so from Annie, she said, you've said we absolutely must do our right thumb and ring finger for balancing breath instead of left. No worries, but can you please explain the science behind it? My curious mind won't drop it, and I really feel like I need to know the why in the same way you've explained most other things so far. I don't have any science around it. The why is that's the way I've taught it. That's the way I've always been taught it. And this stuff, all the stuff in yoga and Ayurveda and meditation, it's not arbitrary. And at this point, if you don't trust these Ayurvedic dudes, and I get that if you're new on the journey, that maybe you aren't seeing many results yet, and maybe you're still having to take things on faith for a moment. But the reality is nothing's really arbitrary. The right hand is your masculine side, your left hand is your feminine side. So doing something with your right hand versus your left hand is going to change what's the loop that's happening in your brain. Mudras, which is like yoga of the fingers, it does different things on the right hand versus the left hand. But don't let this be a point of resistance. It doesn't matter. And like, why do you care? Like, what good is it going to do it with your left hand versus your right? And like, break the rules one day, try it out. You're not going to catch on fire. We'll just see what happens. but it's meant to be done on your right hand. Okay, so from Courtney, what or when was the tipping point in your meditation practice journey that you knew 100% without a doubt that it was it thing that would be transformational for you? Can you share examples of how it showed up in your life? Did those close to you start to notice? If so, what and how? So, Courtney, what I'm more interested in is how's your journey going? What's your experience been like? And are you looking at your progress so far? Are you celebrating your successes from your day one? And the reality is, there is no it thing. There is no magic pill. The reality is that we have to eat well, we have to exercise, we have to sleep, we have to meditate, we have to have good relationships with people. But if you're not meditating and your body's stressed, then your food's going to be shitty, your relationships are going to be shitty, your sleep's going to be shitty. And so for me, the meditation piece was like, it's the foundation. It's the thing that's allowing you to access source energy, and it's the thing that makes everything better because it's up-leveling your brain. And your brain is responsible for every decision you make and every cell that your body prints. And so you want to take care of it and you want to invest in it. But I don't think there is an it thing. I think that you have to have the whole pie. And as you guys know, that the M word is it's a bit gentler than what I learned when I first started, and it's gentler than what I teach face to face in person. And it's designed to be more gradual. This is a micro learning class, so this is going to be certainly more slow and steady, more gentle. It's not going to be the sort of like, I'm enlightened. Like, this is not going to be like a flip a switch and you're in heaven. This is going to be day by day, bit by bit. And if you're looking to kick things up or take things to the next level, then, come see me in New York for Ziva Live, or you could join Ziva Mind if you wanted to develop a twice a day practice and get a more powerful mantra. But it's anytime you're investing in getting to the chair, closing your eyes is going to be good for you because it's going to be getting rid of that stress in your body. So thank you for asking that. And let me just see if there's one moment that I can share with you. I mean, honestly, the first one is the insomnia. Like, that, if that's all meditation had ever done for me is cure my insomnia, it would have been enough. And it would have made my life so much better. But all those other things I was just saying, like the pronoia, my relationships, the food, all of that. And now this is coming in the form of like opportunities, book deals, speaking engagements, TV gigs, and all that stuff is happening in a really beautiful and fast way, which is awesome. Which I feel like it's like a high five from nature that's telling you that like you're on your mission. You're helping people. And is it helping you to add value? Is it helping you on your mission? That's a good litmus test as well. Okay, so from Joy, she said, I meditate in my bed before falling asleep. You recommend sitting while meditating with your head free. Why do you recommend that? What am I missing out on if I meditate while lying down? Really good question, Joy, and super important. Super important. So everybody listen up. We don't meditate right before bed, certainly not this style. Okay, if you want to do a guided visualization as you're lying in bed and listening to someone guide you through something, that's fine. But if you're going to actually meditate, if you're going to actually do the M word technique, and I'm sure you understand this by now, the whole point is to prime your brain for your day. So don't be a selfish meditator and fill yourself up on bliss right before you go to bed. Much better to do the M word in the morning so that you can deliver that bliss and fulfillment and that connection to the divine, to your job, to your family, to the people that you're interacting with. And we don't meditate lying down because you're just going to fall asleep. And you don't want to train your body to use meditation as a sleep-inducing tool. You want your body to use meditation as a meditation-inducing tool, which is different. So if your head is supported, it's just too relaxing and it's too easy. So like you wouldn't want to be in a lazy boy recliner. And for this style, we also wouldn't want to be like sitting with nothing behind you with fancy fingers. Just back supported, head free. And the cool thing about this is that you can do it on a plane, on a train, on a bus, in an office. There's no rules as to where you can or can't do this. And I think that just sitting quietly in a chair really helps with that. I'm just turning off my Skype here. 1 second. Okay, going to the next question. Okay, so Barbara is saying, I have done each day faithfully, but I don't really see any difference. My markers are more patience, kindness, and just being more present and mindful through my day. Please address this issue. Okay, so Barbara, you're like a couple weeks in, right? You're just like a few days in, and for most of us, like I was saying, like this M word, it's micro learning. So we've been doing, oftentimes we would do one technique and then the next technique and the next technique, and then we started gently stacking them. So you've only been doing like the full M word technique for a couple of days. So what we got to do is let go of like our McYogification, or like our McDonald's sort of Western mindset of like, uh, okay, I did this thing for fun. Like I microwaved my food and it's hot in 30 seconds. Like this is not a quick fix. This is a journey. This is a practice. And what you're going to notice is that the benefits are cumulative, bit by bit, day by day. But I'm so glad that you wrote down your markers. And I hope that you, in addition to writing down your markers, I hope that you wrote down exactly what your relationship is with patience. Like, did you write down, like, when you feel impatient, when you lose your temper, what does that look like? What were your other ones? Kindness. What's your relationship with kindness now? How kind are you? What does that look like for you? And where do you want to be? And being more present and mindful throughout the day, that's a great marker. And that will start to happen, but it takes time. A couple of days. And also know that not a couple of days, oftentimes weeks and sometimes months. But a lot of people will, in these first few days and weeks, will have almost what feels like a regression. What feels, they're like, oh no, I'm more tired, I'm more irritable, I'm more angry. And the way I want us to reframe that is that this is actually stuff coming up and out. So if that's the case for you, if you feel more irritable, more impatient, a little less kind, then know that that's okay, that sometimes things are being highlighted for deletion. And the best way to approach that is with that theme song, Better Out Than In, right? One of my boyfriends in high school wrote me a song, and it was called There's More Room on the Outside. And I thought that was so sweet, such a beautiful concept, that there's more room for your emotions on the outside than there are on the inside. And then my nerdy dad joke is that we want this stuff to be in our tissues, not in our tissues. So if some sadness is coming up, just cry it out, and then it's not stuck in your actual cells. But I know that this is tough. If you're committing to doing it, you're doing it every day, and you're not seeing like big dramatic changes, I know that can be really frustrating. So know that you're not alone. I would reach out in the groups, either in the tribe or the Facebook group, and see if there's anyone else that's experiencing that. And maybe you guys can be accountability buddies for each other. And I would say, if it's helpful for you, maybe read some of the scientific research around meditation, because sometimes just letting the intellect know that like this thing works, it's scientifically proven to work, then sometimes that will help your resistance to stay in the chair and give you a few more days and weeks before you give up or quit. So thank you for being so honest, and know that we're all cheering you on. And I want you to get really specific with what those markers are, not just the concept of patience, but like, I get sick 4 times a year. I bite my nails. I'm on this type of anti-anxiety medication. I spend this much money a month at the doctor and on supplements and on wine, so that in 3 months or 4 months, which is really the kind of marker of time we want to be looking at, you can see, well, this is how much I get sick, this is how much money I'm spending on meds, this is how many panic attacks I'm having. So it's more quantifiable. Good. Okay. Betty is saying, Emily had mentioned not doing the M word in the afternoon or night. What happens if I miss the morning and I want to meditate? That's fine. If you miss the morning session and you want to do your meditation in the afternoon is great. You could use it as a pick-me-up. I just designed the M word to where you do the M word in the morning as that priming practice, and then when we move into part 2 and you have all the guided visualizations for real life situations, then you can use that in the middle of your day. But it's no worries. If you miss the morning one, you could absolutely meditate in the afternoon. And I would recommend like in that mid-afternoon slump. Okay, so Megan is saying, I've practiced many types of meditation over the years, on and off. I've only been doing your meditation very briefly and already having results. What is it about Ziva meditation that makes it so effective? Amazing, Megan. I'm so happy to hear that. So you guys are hearing that people are having different experiences. So know that that's okay. We all are at different phases of life. We have different body types. We have different ages. And so it's okay if for some people it's happening a little slower than others. So I'm so glad that you're enjoying this. So there's a couple of things that make what I teach different than what a lot of people are calling meditation these days. Most of what you're going to find on like a free app or a YouTube video or like a challenge are guided visualizations. And that's some of what we're going to do in part 2, where it's like a visualization for a certain outcome. And a lot of them are giving you tools to help you be present, bringing your awareness into the present moment, which is more of a mindfulness practice, versus what we do in the effortless silence, which is very different than most other styles of meditation. That's much more about surrendering, letting go, less effort, letting that word just float in the background of the mind. It's almost like a supercharged power nap sitting up. And that is really the part that makes this so unique and makes this so powerful for people like us, for high performers, for people that want to be better every day. And if you're liking that and you want to dive deeper and get a more powerful mantra or get a twice a day practice, you could either come to zivamind.com or come to New York or LA and learn in person. And then what I can teach face to face is obviously more powerful than what I can do online. And so it just kicks it up to a whole new gear. But I'm so happy that you're seeing results already. Bravo. Go deliver that fulfillment for everyone to enjoy. So Sharon is asking, what do you recommend for a schedule where your morning wake-up time varies, so it's a challenge to meditate at a specific time each day? So Sharon, I have a really good news for you. You don't have to meditate at a specific time each day. Just throw that out the window. Doesn't matter. You don't get any extra points for meditating at the same time every day. What you do get points for is meditating first thing in the morning. So you wake up, freshen up, meditate. And then it doesn't matter if you wake up at 8 a.m., 11 a.m., 2 a.m., you just wake up, freshen up, and then meditate. So that's an easy one. Thank you for that. I hope that helps. Okay. Irina is saying, thank you so much for an incredible course. Are there any tips on how to not miss any days or weeks of meditation? I was doing great for the first 2 months or so, and then I started sliding off. So Irina, this is pretty common. Like meditation's like any other new toy or new course. In the beginning, it's so fun and exciting, and you've got this whole community and you've got all this momentum. And then a lot of us will hit a plateau. And so when you hit a plateau, it's easy to want to quit or it's easy to stop. And so here are some pro tips you can all use to help with this. The first is you gotta schedule it. You gotta schedule it. Put it in your calendar. Pull out your phone, pull out your calendar app, and put it in every day. Definitely first thing in the morning. And you could even schedule in some time to do one of the part 2, meditation for better life in the afternoon if you want a little pick-me-up. But schedule it and keep it like you would an appointment with a lawyer or a doctor or a friend. Basically, make an appointment with yourself and then keep it because you respect yourself. You wouldn't make a lunch date with your best friend and then not show up. You would at least call them or move it or reschedule. And so show yourself the same level of integrity that you would show your best friend and just show up and do it. And then the other pro tip I would say is, reach out to someone in the Facebook group or on the tribe and share information and get an accountability buddy and get someone and set a goal and say, I'm committing to you and to myself that I'm going to commit and that I'm going to meditate every day for the next 6 months. Come hell or high water, I'm meditating every day for the next 6 months. And maybe you guys put some money on the table. If a lifetime of bliss and fulfillment is not reward enough, then put some money on the table. Put like $500, and whoever misses the first one gets the other person's $500. And a lot of people, when I say that, like, what? $500? And it's like, how much do you think stress is costing your brain? How much does it cost you if you get sick and you have to go to the doctor one time? How much does it cost you if you miss a sick day at work? How much is it costing you to not get that great idea for that course or that book? How much is it costing you to lose your temper on your significant other? What's that worth to you, right? So I'd say gamify it, make a bet. Good. Okay, so Juan is saying, talking about breathing techniques, I understand that with one nostril blocked, we could use the other one, but what about a really bad cold? Breathe in and out through the mouth, or just wait for the cold to go? Yeah, with a really bad cold, then you could just do the 2x breath through the mouth. So just in through the mouth for 2 and out through the mouth for 4. Just keep it really simple. So don't stress out too much about the balancing breath. Like, it's good for you, it's great, but if you have a cold, all good. And you could just luxuriate. You could take a little bit more time in the effortless silence part if you have a cold, because your body's going to want a little bit more healing. Good. Okay, so Julie is saying, the M word is a daily routine now and I love it. I've been using a timer and I find it helpful. Will you please explain again why we should or should not use a timer? And if no timer, then what? Okay, so Julie, really good question. And this is a concept that I want to clarify more. And let's take our time with this, because this is so different than what all the apps are doing. Like, if you had an idea for a meditation app, what's the first thing you would do? A meditation timer. And there's like thousands of apps in the App Store for meditation timers. And me at Ziva, I'm sort of the anti-app, I'm the anti-timer. And here's why. Your body does have an internal clock. Okay, it's just that none of us are using it. None of us have taken the time to train our bodies. And I don't want you to be dependent on your phone being charged, being on Wi-Fi, having some finger symbols, some binaural beats, headphones, a candle, and incense to be able to meditate. Nope, I want you to be able to do it right here, right now. You just close your eyes and you drop in. And here's like the neuroscience behind why we don't set an alarm, okay? And this is specifically for the effortless silence part, which is what we elaborate on inside of the Ziva technique. But the inside of the effortless silence, right, you're using that word one almost like an anchor, and you're de-exciting the nervous system, and you're dropping down to your least excited state of awareness. Now, if you were to use an app or an alarm, and I don't care how dingy or harpy or gongy or chimey or gentle your app is, it's still an alarm. Okay, and this thing, this cell phone device, has no way of knowing how deep or shallow you are in your meditation. Okay, so let's say you're just on the cusp of like dropping into the bliss field, and then like bring, or like om, and there's this alarm that brings you up and out. That thing has merciless accuracy, and it has no way of knowing, like I said, how deep or shallow you are. So it will rip you up from the depths of your meditation, and it will give you something that I call the meditation bends. So the meditation bends, you know, in scuba diving, if you come up too fast, you get the bends. Well, same thing can happen in meditation. And if you come up too fast, you get the meditation bends, which is headaches and irritability. And you can have headaches and irritability without wasting your time. So no alarms in this. So what I recommend instead is have a timepiece near you, preferably a clock or a watch. Maybe buy a little $10 Timex at the store. And if it has to be your phone, here's what I recommend. Put it on airplane mode to start, and then I'm just going to show you guys right now. There is a free thing called Clocks. Right now, I don't know if you can see this or not, but it's just called the Clocks, and it basically just turns your phone into a giant digital clock. And then you don't have to touch it, you don't have to swipe, you don't have to put in your code, there's no text messages coming up, there's no alarms, there's no dinging, binging, buzzing, or anything. It's just if you don't have any clocks in your house, this is basically serving as a clock. But I'd rather you throw this thing in a river and buy yourself a $10 Timex watch and use that to keep the time. And then know that you don't have to sweat too much. Like, don't worry too much of like, was this part 3 minutes and was this part 2 and was this one 5? Just know how much time you want to spend on the whole practice, and then let yourself sort of move innocently from piece to piece. And that'll take a little practice, but your body's going to guide you on that. I'm giving you the ideal. I'm walking you through so that you understand it and you have a visceral experience of it. And then I'd say just practice taking the training wheels off and see what happens. You can always come back to the guidance, but then try a day without me, and then come back to the guidance, try a few days without me, back to the guidance, and then pretty soon you're going to be like, look, Ma, no hands. And that'll feel really inspiring and self-sufficient. Okay, good. So Michael, what is the best position to be in for meditation? So Michael, I want you to answer this question. What have I been saying at the beginning of every video? And I say, all right, go ahead and get comfortable and just sit with your back supported and your head free. I say it on the beginning of almost every video. So if maybe you're multitasking, or if you're doing other things while you've been watching those videos, I'd say new rule, shut down all the other windows, don't do anything else, and just watch those videos. So just back supported, head free. That's ideal for what we do at the M word. Good. So Keeves is asking, how many times can I do the M word in a day? 1 time. So you could do the M word in the morning. Ideal is morning, you use it as that priming practice, and then you use one of the guided visualizations at some point in your mid-afternoon. Maximum, I'd want you to do 2. So that would be like on a day that you're flying, or if you're pregnant, or if you're sick or not sleeping, then you could do in an extra M word. And like I keep saying, if you want to do a twice-a-day practice and get a little bit more powerful mantra, you could do our online course over at Ziva. Okay, so Kathy is saying, hi Emily, I'm excited to be a part of this class. Meditation has changed my life. I love the way you teach and explain it all. Thank you, I really appreciate that. So my question is, why do we continue to judge the good meditation as the one that you feel out of your body? Is it true that the times we have racing thoughts could be the times that may actually be the most beneficial because of all the stress we're letting go? Okay, so I'm going to reframe this question a little bit because I'm not sure that there might be a little bit of a language barrier. So I think what you're referring to is that I keep saying we don't judge a deep meditation as good and a shallow meditation as bad. So just we're super clear on that. What I keep saying is we do not judge a deep meditation as good or a shallow meditation as bad. And there is no out of your body, okay? Like when people say I'm having an out of body experience, what's happening there is that they're using some technique that's allowing them to access the right brain. And the right brain is the piece of us that's in charge of everyone and everything. It's connected to everyone and everything. So when you're in that state, sort of in that bliss field, you feel more expansive, you feel bigger, or you feel like you might be like floating above yourself, but it's not really out of body. It's just that you start tapping into the other reality, which is that there's only one thing and we're all it. And so, and that feels nice, and it's delicious to hang out in the bliss field, and it's delicious to feel expansive. But the second you start chasing that, it's going to go away and you're not going to have it anymore. So you don't want to chase that any more than you would any other type of result. And yes, it is absolutely true that those thoughts during the meditation is stress leaving the body, right? So if you're doing all these techniques, right, if you're using that word, if you're using it with least effort, your body's de-exciting, and then what happens is that the thoughts start bubbling, or the stresses start leaving the body in the form of thoughts. And so instead of judging yourself as like, oh crap, I'm thinking about work, oh crap, I'm thinking about my ex-boyfriend, and beating yourself up the whole time, which sucks, is not fun, and you feel like you're failing, and then you're going to quit, I would say instead just have that theme song going, better out than in, and thank those thoughts. Be like, thank you and goodbye. So Gariella is saying, hi, I've been meditating for about 5 years. Okay, on and off, and I had a mantra that was assigned. One of the reasons that I'm taking your course is because that I felt that mantra was no longer working for me. Do mantras need to change depending on where we find ourselves in life? Okay, so my guess is that Gariella, if you were given a mantra face-to-face, that probably is your mantra. And what a lot of people report when they started doing the M word is that even if they've gotten a mantra face-to-face, sometimes that mantra would come back. Now, what it sounds like was happening is that you thinking that the mantra wasn't working is you simply judging yourself based on misinformation. Because a lot of us, before having this type of training, we think, well, the deep meditation is good and the shallow ones are bad. And then you're judging yourself based on how many or few thoughts you're having. So what happens is that over time, you're going to start having more and more thoughts during your meditation. And that's going to feel like you're a failure if you're listening to that dude that's telling everyone to clear their mind. And so we got to take that guy, throw him out the window. Don't throw him out the window, but throw the idea out the window. And know that thoughts are not the enemy of meditation. So probably wasn't the mantra that wasn't working. What was happening is that over time with meditation is that our right brain and our left brain start integrating. Okay, the waking state and the bliss field start integrating. And so in the beginning of our careers, it's like, here's our waking state and here's the bliss field. And they feel like, whoa, this is really stressing and amped. And then it's like, whoa, I'm in this other state. And it feels like, oh my God, I'm the best meditator in the land. And then over time, as these states start integrating and the meditation is making us less stressed, and so then our waking state calms down and the meditations don't need to be quite as deep. As this integration is happening, the difference between waking state and meditation is not all that different. And then some people judge this as my mantra is not working. But my rebuttal to that is, why did you start meditating to begin with? Is it because you wanted to be the best meditator in the land? Is it because you wanted to have no thoughts while you're sitting in a chair? Or are you meditating because you want to get better at life, more creativity, better sex, better sleep, more patience, kindness, right? So, and that integration is the thing that allows that to happen. So what I would recommend is instead of judging how you're feeling when you're in the chair, instead start judging how you're performing at life. And so what you could do, since you've been given a mantra, is you could use that during your M-word practice, if that feels good. Okay, so Valerie, what do you suggest for dealing with sensations of distress? I understand the basic idea of letting it be, letting myself experience whatever, just wondering how you look at this. So this depends on whether or not you're talking about in the meditation or in your waking state. So if it's inside of the M-word practice and you start having some panic attacks or what feels like panic attacks or anxiety, then what I would recommend is just put down whatever part of the technique you're on, just put it down all together and then scan the body from the top of the head to the bottom of the feet. Just scan the body and ask, What's the most prevalent sensation happening for me? And then let it talk to you. Let it say whatever it needs to say. And then once that dissipates, scan the body again, top of the head to the bottom of the feet. What's the most prevalent sensation happening for me? And once you do that 3 or 4 times, usually the distress has passed. You're back in your body in the right now, and then you can pick back up the techniques. So that's my recommendation for that. Now, if you're in your waking state and something happens, you get caught up in traffic or someone, you just start, having a life, which, meditation is not going to take away your feelings. We're still going to be human, angry, sad, happy. All that stuff is part of life, and that's all okay. But if something overwhelming is happening, then what I would recommend is that you do come to your senses. Now, what we do is very, sort of elaborate, but you could do that in a few seconds with your eyes open even. You could just stop, feel your feet on the ground, and then hear what you're hearing, see what you're seeing, taste what you're tasting, smell what you're smelling, and just walk through your senses in a few seconds to bring yourself into the body. Usually our stress hangs out in the past and the future. So if we use that come to your senses technique to come into the right here, right now, that's usually a really good plan. So, Emily, can you suggest 1 or 2 good books about meditation which can complement the M-word techniques? So good question. So I'm actually writing a book right now, which I'm so excited about. I have a book deal with HarperCollins, and my book comes out in January of 2019. Can you believe that? Can you believe how long that process is? So that'll be a fun one, and it'll be the exact complement to this course because it's called The M-Word, and it's all meditation for performance. But if you want to dive, it depends on what you're interested in learning. There's a book I'm really crushing on right now, and it's called Power versus Force, and it's by David Hawkins, Dr. David Hawkins. And actually, if you go to Ziva, Z-I-V-A, zivameditation.com/Ziva Vault. So this would be a good resource for you guys. There's a thing called the Ziva Vault, and it is our blog basically. There's like hundreds of videos in there and different tips in there, and there's a reading list, and it's got a lot of the books that I'm crushing on as of late. So I would say check that out, and just so it's searchable as well. So if you go to the Ziva Vault, then you can just search reading list. So that'll be a great thing for you. Okay. So Magana is saying, Emily, thank you so much for the M-word. If we work night shifts sometimes, is it okay to meditate when you wake up in the afternoon? Absolutely. So when you wake up in the afternoon, that's the start of your day, so then you would just meditate then. So that's totally fine. And Sharon's saying, what's the next step after we complete the 33 days? Is there a more in-depth meditation that can be learned? Yes, Sharon, there totally is. So a beautiful next step would be to join our online training over at Ziva. And you can access that through zivameditation.com. There's a button there that just says Learn to Meditate, and you can click Learn Online. And there are some differences to the program. The mantras are more powerful. It's like the effortless silence part is most of what the Ziva course is. And a lot of people report that a lot of people from the M-word last time went on to do it and report that it speeds up that stress release and just sort of speeds up the benefits, all the benefits I've been talking about. And then like the Tesla of meditations is like, come and learn with me in person in New York or LA. Okay, so Jason is saying, Emily, I've loved this course so far. Thank you so much. What can we expect a year from now if we stick with this daily meditation? It's motivating to me if I can envision a future based on effort I'm putting in now. I know it'll be different for everyone, but curious what some of the bigger outcomes you've seen with your long-term clients. So Jason, this is a great question, and you're right, it is different for everyone, and I want to take care that we don't get into the I'll be happy when syndrome as it applies to meditation, meaning that I don't want to see like, well, once I've been suffering through this terrible meditation slog for a year, then I'll be a millionaire. Like that's antithetical to everything that we teach. And so the way I'd love for you to think about this is that I wake up in the morning and I have this beautiful opportunity to dip into my own bliss and fulfillment right here, right now. And then I use my desires as a means by which to deliver that fulfillment. And if we start to reframe life in that way, then there's no pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. But what a lot of my clients report is, increase in that flow state, like just feeling like they're in the right place at the right time, feeling like their deserving power goes up, meaning that they become more of like an abundance mindset versus a scarcity mindset. So they're willing to negotiate higher salaries. They're willing to negotiate better relationship contracts. Because we all have spiritual contracts with everyone that we're in a relationship in or with, and I think that oftentimes if you've been accepting behavior that is less than ideal, sometimes things start get highlighting for deletion, meaning that like behavior that used to be acceptable to you starts to not be acceptable anymore. And then you start calling in higher vibe people. We know that saying that you are the medium of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. So look at who you're spending your time with. How kind are they? How successful are they? How much money are they making? What kind of trips are they taking? How much are they contributing to the world? And make sure that the people you're surrounding yourself with are the type of people that you want to evolve into. Um, and so I would say for a lot of people, that starts to happen innocently and spontaneously. Like the people that complain and drink all the time and just can't ever find anything nice to say, like it just doesn't find, it's not as charming to hang out with those people. And as they start to fall away, you start calling in really fun, creative, energetic people that are contributing to making the world a better place. Great. So here's some really beautiful things that some students have shared about their successes so far. And Sharon's saying she's so grateful for the consistency of meditating on a daily basis. So that's awesome, Sharon. And really, that's the whole gig. It's like, what is it going to take to get you to the chair every day? And Jenny's saying, I haven't gone out since starting meditation with you. And so I think that means like maybe gone out drinking or gone out partying. So I don't want you to become a recluse, but if you used to have a propensity towards abusing alcohol, then this is great. Claire's saying, I'm noticing that I feel so much more grateful for the little things in life. Oh, beautiful. That to me is like the whole jam. Life is the little things. Like, oh, this delicious water. The beautiful sunshine. Like, oh, the fact that I get to meditate. The fact that my kids' laughter and like coming home to my dog. When all of this stuff starts to be the things that you're celebrating, like this is a life worth living. Instead of being like, oh, I'll be happy when I have a yacht and a bazillion dollars. Okay. David is saying, this is the best course I've taken. I'm an instructional designer, and this is the best meditation course I've taken. Well, holy moly, David. Thank you very much. I consider that high praise. Thank you. And then Leslie's saying, I've seen such a difference in how I'm feeling and handling the stress that has come up in my life. Bravo, Leslie. Thank you for sharing that, and I'm so glad. So we're going to start to wrap it up here, but I just want to say thank you so incredibly much for your time, for your attention, for your trust, and for allowing me to walk on this path with you. It is a responsibility that I don't take lightly, and I know that your time is your most valuable resource. So I really appreciate you taking the time to invest in this course, and not only for yourself, because yes, selfishly, we all come to meditation to perform better, but ultimately what starts to happen is that as you start vibrating higher, as your light starts shining brighter, you can start to go and deliver that to your workplace, to your family, to your friends. And that, the ripple effect of that, I mean, think about how many thousands of people are moving through the M word, and then think about all of the thousands and maybe millions of lives that those people will touch. This to me is why we meditate, so that we can collectively up-level the state of consciousness. Because one person meditating in a cave might be nice for them, but it's not going to change the way our agriculture works. It's not going to change climate change. It's not going to change public policy. It's not going to change the types of leaders that are being elected. If we want to do that, we've got to start grassroots, start with ourselves, and then collectively up-level the consciousness. Beautiful. So thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you. I'll be checking out in the tribe and in the Facebook group, so keep those conversations alive, support each other, share with each other. And I love you guys so, so much, and I will see you soon. And I hope to see you in New York or LA in person soon. Bye.